All right. So hello everyone and welcome to the AMA with gDAO. Now, an absolutely amazing session awaits us. Super excited to be getting some more information on what the team is building. I did want to put an emphasis in this introduction from my end that it is quite a unique concept behind it, and I'm all about it. Now, for those of you that didn't have a chance to check what it's all about yet, I'll just proceed with a short introduction. And then, of course, just for you to get the hang of the basics. And then, of course, we will hand over the microphone to the CEO from gDAO for a little bit more information, not only the basics. So, gDAO, it is a global platform that helps turn validated university research into investable, real-world projects. Now, using the gDAO token, the community can evaluate, fund, and help govern these projects in a transparent way on, of course, the blockchain. Essentially, it's a way to bring breakthrough scientific ideas from the lab to the market while letting anyone participate in supporting and guiding them once they, of course, fulfill the necessary requirements. Now, after the team's presentation here, we will be doing a deeper dive into the entire process of evaluation, the DAO's role in making and voting on proposals, their Patreon app, as well as some things to look forward to with let's say, a glimpse of the roadmap as well. Now, as I did have a chance to mention a little bit earlier before we started off with the recording here, I did want to drop a kind reminder for the sale here. If you're interested in contributing, you, of course, can find the link to it on the AMA announcement. I believe it's currently the second pin message, so we did forward it in our main chat once again, just to help things be hassle-free for you all. So it's taking place at 6:14 p.m. UTC today. All the useful links are there. And of course, if by chance we can't cover your question, because usually we can't cover them all, right? Do make sure to also join their Telegram. You, of course, can find the link to that on the AMA announcement as well. But yeah, enough of me rambling on and on. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here. Now, for starters, if you don't mind just providing a little bit of background information about yourself, just so the community can get to know you a little bit better. And once you're done with that, feel free to just tie it together to the idea behind gDAO. So let's say how everything got started, what you wanted to accomplish, utilities, basically everything that you want the listeners to know with your pitch. And then, of course, we're gonna continue with some topics of discussion and later on community questions. It is a pleasure, and for now, the floor is all yours. Welcome.
Thank you. I'll reintroduce myself. So we are the gDAO, and this is Batsi, aka Batsirai I'm the founder, the boss, the don, the jefe, the commander, and captain of the gDAO project, and it's a pleasure to be speaking to you all on this AMA. So I am a technologist, digital marketer, and sales professional. I'm UK based, and I've been in the startup industry for the best part of 10 years, co-founding various startups. I also happen to hold a patent for a medtech invention, which funnily enough also comes from university, as an Ergos Kettle project. Some friends of mine and I from universities, so we do understand the challenge and the problem that the gDAO is trying to solve, because we are part of it, trying to commercialize intellectual property which comes from the university space. And I'm also a blockchain consultant, enterprise blockchain consultant, and that's how I joined the Pipe company, which is our incubator. This is now just over 2 years ago. Our incubator and partner, they're the Web2 platform where the DeSci inventions come from, and I was brought on board as a joint venture partner to launch the Web3 arm of the ecosystem. So that's a brief intro about me. I am, of course, a degen as well. Of course, I advise, other projects, NFT projects, crypto projects as well. But I'm more focused on enterprise, as I said, and I want to really bring blockchain and Web3 into the so-called real world. And this is why I joined Pipe and founded the gDAO. Okay, so, sorry, go on. Were you going to say something?
No. Just wanted to say I appreciate the introduction here. Thank you very much for that. And I'm not going to cut you off. Feel free to just kind of introduce the gDAO, benefits, utilities, everything you guys are building, and then we're going to continue with some topics of discussion. So feel free to continue.
Sure, thank you. Okay, so the gDAO, we are an members-only impact finance ecosystem focused on real-world assets and real-world impact. And our first use case for our framework is the PGF launchpad. And what is that all about? Well, PIPE stands for Pre-IPO Exchange, and I will be getting into that a bit later on. So we are essentially trying to solve something called the European paradox. Now, this is a state of affairs where Europe, particularly in the university R&D, that's research and development sector, fails to churn out tech uniforms at anywhere close to the rate that the US does or China does. I could probably name maybe only two tech unicorns from Europe, Spotify and Skype. But that's been acquired by Microsoft, maybe Nokia as well. But they're very few. You can name them, or you can put them on your finger. And so the problem is that there's a very risk-averse culture in Europe, since they're the kind of so-called established society. They're very, very old school in their thinking. It's not like North America or America in particular that was a country built on taking risk, and so on. So there's a funding gap. There's just not enough capital flowing into innovation in Europe, and particularly in the university side. So what's known as technology transfer. There's not enough technology transfer from universities into the commercial sector. And why universities? A lot of the biggest tech unicorns, probably most of them, especially in the States, actually come from universities. Facebook, Google, Snapchat. They've all come from universities, right? So that is where the research and development happens. So the funding gaps, lack of technology transfer, risk-averse culture, and so on. And up to 83% of university innovations, because of this European paradox, particularly in Europe, don't actually make it to market. So there could be all kinds of research that could cure cancer, that could boost EV battery range by 70%, which we have on our DeSci launchpad, and all these kind of things. But once they just get grant funding, and the research just sits there, and they have to keep getting more grant funding to do new research. So it's essentially like a heroin fix, if you like. And for every $1 billion worth of, 1 million euros, worth of R&D spending in Europe, there's only one disclosure. So the lack of disclosure for what's actually going on in universities is a huge problem as well. So our solution to this is the PIPE gDAO and PIPE company framework. So the PIPE platform is a Web2 platform, and this is where universities can securely disclose their ideas and inventions. And the PIPE gDAO is the community-based funding mechanism, which essentially crowdfunds and crowdsources the capital from communities into the PIPE platform, and gets commercialized there. Now, why universities? I'll expand on that. University inventions have a 95% success rate compared to commercial ventures. A lot of people don't know that. There's companies like WeWork and stuff which have not gone well. And why is that? It's because of the level of research and development that universities do. So primarily it's TRLs, that's technology readiness level. So this is used by NASA, the European Space Agency, and presumably SpaceX, since SpaceX is privatized NASA. So TRL 1 and 2, that's where you've produced a prototype in the lab, and 2 is where you've reproduced that prototype in the lab, maybe 10 of them or something. 8 and 9 are where you've mass produced the prototype, and also then deployed it where it's mass produced the product, ready for the market, and where you've actually then put it into the market for the way that it's used. So VCs have only 5% of the things that VCs invest in, especially in the tech world, only make it through, are actually successful. So there's a huge opportunity there. And one of the problems is that, VCs like the next shiny, sexy thing, if you like. They don't really have the patient capital that's required. And, they just throw mud against the wall and see what sticks, right? And they don't really make money. They only make money from the money. So they charge management fees, they charge fees on the profits from the investment, they charge fees for withdrawals, all kinds of fees. And that's really where they make their money. But most of the stuff they invest in, as I said, 95% doesn't make it. So we feel that the community, having a community-based funding mechanism can really, really help to plug that gap and to actually change the world. Web3 has no relevance if it's not actually changing people's lives, in the real world, not just, excuse my French, shit coins and NFT marketplaces and all this kind of cool digital intangible stuff. So we've built something called the PGF Launchpad, Pipe General Fund Launchpad, which is a tokenized impact fund, which was built specifically to solve this European paradox problem. And we have a number of innovations that are listed on the Pipe platform. And what the Pipe platform does is it de-risks these projects. It checks out their commercial viability by doing up to 90 hours of due diligence on each project. So when the communities are investing in the PGF Launchpad, their money is only deployed into the project once it reaches certain milestones based on rigorous due diligence. And most launchpads, I don't know if of any, most Web3 projects don't even do that basic due diligence, which is securely done on Web2 and Web3. And then the community capital is then deployed from there. So we have something like called, for example, we have a project called Thermal eBank, and that, as I said before, that increases EV battery efficiency by up to 70%. So BYD batteries, potentially Tesla batteries, these could be used to power not just cars, but shipping, planes, trains, and potentially even accommodation. Right? We have another project listed on our PGF DeSci Launchpad called the Tooth Fairy project, and that takes stem cells from baby teeth, preserves them, and then it then can be used to produce tailor-made treatments. Tailor-made pharmaceuticals, potentially. Use stem cells to cure paralysis, for specifically targeted to that person, right? And this is just a taste of the inventions that that universities, not just in Europe, but just generally, are inventing that just never get there. And rather than having this top-down hierarchy from TradFi, so there's currently a $2.3 trillion impact finance market and a $500 billion a year market in European R&D research from universities, but it's TradFi, VCs, and those people that decide what makes it and what doesn't. And we want to empower the community to do that, our community of patrons. So patrons are people in the past that have funded and commissioned great public works that have changed the world, like the De Medicis were the patrons for Michelangelo, and so on. Julius Caesar was the patron, for calendars and temples and all kinds of things. And now we're democratizing that by using blockchain technology, because blockchain horizontalizes verticals. It breaks down hierarchies, and we are democratizing access to that patronage and that power, so you, the community, can fund and get things launched to the market. And so I've mentioned the Pipe platform, which is the Web 2 side, which de-risks and gets things commercially viable. The gDAO, which is the community-based funding mechanism. We've also built a Pipe exchange where the RWAs, which is the IP, the intellectual property, that gets listed and can then get acquired by VCs and other TradFi and so on to get through to the next stage. And our moniker is making pipe dreams a reality. And the gDAO token, where that comes in, is that then expands the framework. So once we prove first principles to say, hey, listen, our Web 2, Web 3 framework solves this problem. So we want to raise 2 million euros per project, and we aim to get 5 projects funded. That's 10 million euros funded through the PGF Launchpad. If the community wants to direct capital and set up a whole new tokenized fund using the same framework, Web 2, Web 3 framework, let's just say someone wants to fund a launch a startup which provides renewable energy in the so-called global south, like in Africa or in Asia, by putting solar panels on villages and that kind of stuff. The community can vote, and if there's a 2/3 majority in favor of that, another instance of the gDAO fund and the Pipe platform is launched, and then the community can fund that project directly. So we want to take a 1% market share of the global $2.3 trillion impact finance market with the gDAO token. And we want to have up to 4,000 different gDAOs funding and solving all kinds of real world impact problems all over the world. And that's powered by the community. So that's what we do, and that's why I'm here. Thanks for listening.
Absolutely fantastic. What a strong presentation introduction here. Much appreciated. Now, I did just want to mention that you have been very, very detailed with everything that you're saying here, which I truly appreciate. And of course, the added transparency. Now, if you don't mind, just a little bit of, I'm going to say, follow-up questions regarding everything that you mentioned here. And I think that it makes perfect sense that we continue the discussion with the Pipe General Fund Launchpad, which you once again did a fantastic job of just guiding the community through on how this is going to take place. And what I was wondering, so this is kind of like, as I did mention, a follow-up question, right? So we already did have the information on let's say the DAO's role, and of course how you'd be approaching the let's say research from universities. Doesn't necessarily have to only be Europe, but let's say universities in general. And it just brings me to the question, on top of, let's say, you scouting through the researches on, let's say, universities, and on top of course the DAO both having the right to make proposals as well as vote on them, if for instance, let's say that a specific university, they kind of stumble upon what you guys are working here, is there also a way for them to contact you directly as opposed to just you scouting for them, if that makes sense?
Yes, of course. So all of the university projects that are listed on the PGF Launchpad are actually customers, clients rather, of the Pipe company. So the Pipe platform is actually a Web 2 SaaS platform. So they can contact Pipe, they can submit their disclosure for a fee, of course, but sometimes we don't charge a fee. Depends on the context. So, for example, the pipe company takes 30% ownership of the company and charges a fee. But let's just say an instance where the university project, or it doesn't have to be university necessarily. It could be an academic researcher or a research institute. And if they kind of don't want to pay it or are not in a position to pay, we can say, okay, you can use the framework for free. However, we take a 40% cut, right? So it could be independent research, but as long as it's research R&D, independent researchers, research institutions, and those that are attached to universities, they can get in touch on the Web 2 side and submit their disclosure. And then that gets then listed on the Pipe platform. Sorry, listed on the Pipe platform and listed on the PGF Launchpad. Hope that answers your question.
absolutely makes perfect sense. Much appreciated. And I completely forgot to also give you some props for specifically the safety feature, right, that you mentioned as far as the PGF Launchpad goes here. So yeah, definitely something that's needed. Going to give you guys props for that as well. And
Thank you.
what I was, no problem at all. What I was also thinking here is, let's say, specifically targets, because, you know, at the end of the day, if we're talking about different researchers, at the end of the day, obviously the targets that researchers will have, it's going to differ from, let's say, one project to another, you know. So it just brings me to the question, considering this is something that you would, of course, not only plan yourself, but something that, of course, the DAO members, the ones that fulfill the necessary requirements, will also have a say in it. So it just brings me to the question, if, for instance, let's say that a specific research, let's say that the ones from either university or, you know, independent ones, at the end of the day, let's say that they have the necessary requirement of, for instance, let's say raising $1 million, for instance, just to provide you with an example.
$1 million. Sorry, I had to say that one. Go on.
I was just wondering if in this case, if this is something that ultimately just gets accepted, or if you would run it by, let's say, the DAO members and yourself to just kind of see how much, I would say, how much interest there even is for this, and then you would, let's say, tweak the necessary cap, the necessary requirements, so you could 100% make sure that they would raise the amount that they would be after. Just kind of curious to know more about how you would deciding upon this.
Okay, cool. So there would be like a sub DAO. So when someone deposits money into the PGF Launchpad, it's USDC in, USDC out, right? We are going to token gate that. So you have to be a gDAO. You will have to be a gDAO member for you to invest in the PGF Launchpad and any other gDAOs that are created in the future. So the token gating is not live yet, but it will be, right? And so you'll have to have 10 gDAO tokens for you to be a member. And then if you're a member, you can then deploy capital into each fund, and then you'll get once you deposit your USDC into the PGF Launchpad, you get a soul-bound membership NFT, and that gives you access to the platform, right? So to answer your question, if a project has met all the criteria on the Pipe platform on the Web2 side, it will get the funding. Yeah, so this is not about cherry picking and picking winners. That's what VCs do. However, again, because these things are de-risked, and you know, the community can actually join the Pipe platform as associates, and they can actually see the disclosures. There's no charge. They can see all of the due diligence steps that have been taken. They have access to the due diligence reports. But you have to do KYC, you have to do AML, of course. But no, the community doesn't get to cherry pick what gets funded and what doesn't get funded, because we want to make it a level playing field, at the seed level. What then happens is, let's just say the project wants to do a Series A, for example. They've gotten their seed funding, with the initial 2 million de-risked, and they want to do a Series A. So basically, they want to do an STO, so we are building an STO platform, where it's like, okay, we want to stick with the fund, we want to raise another 5 or 10 million. It's at that stage that the community then gets to decide, okay, can this project do an STO with or not, right? And if so, a sub gDAO or an XX gDAO or XX Launchpad gets created, dedicated to that specific project, and an STO is then done, and the community then gets an equity position in that. So not at the seed stage, which is the 2 million, because we have to give all the projects a fair chance to get funded, but at the Series A stage. So there's the general fund, which is the general pot, and then there can be a sub DAO or sub gDAO, or what we call XX Launchpad or XX DAO, which is dedicated to a specific project to do STO. So it's only at the Series A or STO level that the community get to decide whether or not an STO fund gets set up to fund that project to the next stage. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Appreciate the transparency and, of course, the entire process here, just so everyone is aware of it. So, yeah, thank you very much for that. I do have an additional follow-up question here, considering that, as far as, let's say, investment opportunities go, we did have a chance to touch upon the fact that the supported option for, once again, investment opportunities is going to be USDC. So, naturally speaking, it got me curious, how come only USDC? Is this more so for instance, let's say stable and predictable investments, or is there, let's say, another reason as far as USDC is going to be the only option for investment purposes?
Okay, so stable is number one, right? We can't have volatile assets like Bitcoin and ETH. And as much as we'd love to do that, we can't. We need to. There needs to be transparency as to how much has been invested and how much equity has been allocated on the community side. So it has to be stable coin. And why USDC in this instance? Well, USDC is more favored by regulators, particularly European regulators, because of the level of transparency. I think Circle is a US-based company, and they have to be transparent about the assets that are being backed by to mint and produce a stable coin. If I'm not mistaken, USDT is the company. Tether itself is in El Salvador. Well, not to throw shade necessarily, transparently backs the minting of USDT, right? So, I mean, some might be necessarily, but it's been suggested by some that USDT actually gets minted out of thin air in many cases, and a lot of USDT is actually used to pump Bitcoin. So there are a number of security risks there. So we don't want to expose universities to that level of risk. They've got their academic institutions. We're dealing with intellectual property, patented stuff. So we need to be very, very careful about that. So the transparency of USDC, and again, USDC is MiCA approved. MiCA is the EU or European framework, digital framework for digital assets. So we have to de-risk it. But it's not going to be the only one. So we are going to register the PGF, Pipe General Fund, as a subsidiary of Pipe. We're looking to do that in the UAE, Dubai, and we're looking to add the Dubai coin, for example, as a CBDC or stable coin, as well as for a payment method, right? So there's no point having CBDCs or national digital coins if there's no use cases. So USDC is the first one, but yeah, we're going to add other payment methods that are CBDCs or so on. But I think Dubai coin is the next one that we're looking to integrate as a payment method, and so on. I hope that helps.
Awesome. Perfect. It for sure does. Much appreciated. Just two more from my side before we continue to community questions, just so we can once again cover the majority of the ground here. And this is a follow-up. I think that it was not the last discussion, but one before that. So you already did a fantastic job of just, guiding the community as well as myself through everything that, of course, DAO members will get a chance to do. Obviously, we already touched upon let's say, the necessary requirements of how many tokens you actually need for the sake of investing into, let's say, scientific projects in this case. And just a follow-up here, for instance, if we specifically talk about making your own proposal, so not necessarily investing into those projects or, let's say, voting on proposals, but specifically making your own, is that the same requirement for, let's say, 10 gDAO tokens, if I do remember correctly, or do you need to hold more if you would like to make your own proposal here?
Yeah, no, so it's 10 gDAO tokens. So it's the same membership, right? So you deploy you deposit your 10 gDAO tokens into the platform. It generates a membership NFT, and yeah, it's the same membership. So it's actually token based on the Soulbound NFT. So it's the same NFT membership, which is 10 gDAO tokens requirement, and then you'll get to submit a proposal and vote. Now, for voting, we have to have KYC. You didn't have to do KYC to be a member, But for voting, you will have to do KYC because people can then game the system and create multiple memberships and so on. But no, the number of tokens you hold does not impact your voting power. Otherwise, you're just creating another hierarchy. So it's just 10, one member, one vote. And that's the weight that it carries. So someone can have 100 million tokens will have the same vote as someone with 10 tokens. But again, because there'll be a KYC for voting specifically, that way, that's how we ensure that people aren't, as I said, gaming the system and being corrupt. So was that your only question, or do you want me to expand on the process?
No, I think that this is more than fine, so truly appreciate that. And just going to move on to the last, let's say, topic of discussion from my side before we, of course, continue to those community questions. Now, I know that we kind of already started talking about a little bit earlier regarding patrons, right? But specifically, I don't think that we expanded on the app, right? So where you can also mint your Patreon. I believe that you have that plan for 2026. Got a little bit tongue tied here. And yeah, just kind of curious to know if you don't mind, of course, just doing a little bit of a rundown regarding the Patreon app. Let's say everything that the listeners need to know here, and of course, what it's going to be used for at the end of the day, right?
So the Patreon app is live. So we have done a soft launch for the gDAO token already on the Layer 1x blockchain, on the Layer 1x Quantum DEX, but we are going to be doing a new TGE after we do public sales on launchpads, so 6 launchpads that we've been approved for. But what we just wanted to do a soft launch just to get some utility out there and to test the market and so on. So so the Patrons app is live with the current version of the gDAO token. So you get 10 gDAO tokens from Layer 1x Quantum DEX. You come onto the Patrons app, you connect your wallets on the Layer 1x network. It checks that you have the 10 tokens, and then you can submit a docked picture like I have, or your NFT degen picture, and then our resident art, and then you get put in the queue, and our resident artist will get your portrait did for you, and that's proof of patronage. We have plans for what you'll be able to do with those in the future. You could get an oil painting of your patron done, for example, a poster, a bust. There's all kinds of things that we're going to be looking at for that. But the Patrons app is live. But what's going to happen starting Q1 is that you're going to need 100 gDAO tokens to mint your patron, not 10. Right? So it's a difficulty bomb similar to how Bitcoin works. So each quarter it's gonna require more gDAO in your wallet for you to create it, for you to mint a patron. But right now it's only 10 gDAO. So just for this sale, yes, the sale, people will be buying into gDAO tokens on BNB chain, but in Q1, when we then do our new TGE and our new and do a relaunch with more liquidity on the DEX, Layer 1x Quantum DEX, all existing holders will just get airdropped the new token. So first, you'll bridge your BNB tokens over to L1X once we open the bridging. Once you open up the bridging, you will get the new version. And any existing holders that are buying on the DEX now will just airdrop them the new token when the new TGE happens after we do the public sale. So just in case there's any confusion, and I will update the sale page, all these tokens will be bridged over to BNB chain. They'll be burned, and you'll get your gDAO tokens on the L1X networks. Just to mention that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Perfect. I appreciate the added information here. And I did just want to drop some feedback here regarding I specifically remember the thing that stood out to me the most, the oil painting of your patron. That sounds amazing. So appreciate all the added information here. And without further ado, let's keep it moving to some of the community questions as well. So yeah, you guys know how this goes. The first one is going to be on the hot seat. So Jerry, you're going to be on the first hot seat today. You know how this goes. Better make your questions count. Better make the great ones. Has been a while. Hopefully you're doing fantastic. And the floor is all yours. Welcome.
Hello, man. So, how you doing?
Hey, fantastic. How about yourself, man?
So, can I go with my questions?
Yeah, go for it. A little bit. Hear the question. Just go for it. I'm gonna tell.
Okay, so what is your plan to make your project stable and provide the highest return for investors in long term? And also, how do both investors and projects combine to create a mutually beneficial relationship? There you get the
Uh,
question.
so the first question was how do what's our plan to make the project sustainable long term is one.
Yeah, mate.
And then
Yeah, man.
and then how do the projects and gDAO community and token holders work together for the ecosystem? Is that right?
Yes, man.
Okay. So in terms of sustainability, um, the PG the gDAO and the PGF Pipe General Fund, we take a 10% cut off all of the USDC which is deposited into the fund. That's the revenue model. Very simple, very scalable. We don't take any other fees from that, and that's how we aim to fund the operations and development of the project. Yeah, so we're not trying to do some pie in the sky, bullshit, excuse my French, Web3 business models that are trying to, tie themselves in knots, trying to create a business model which doesn't exist yet. Simple as that. We take a 10% cut off that. So once we reach our first target of 10 million into the fund, into the tokenized fund, that'll generate 1 million in revenue for us, which we can use to then reinvest into get more university projects onboarded, and fund the operations to commercialize the university project. So very simply, a scalable revenue model from USDC. And then how do the projects in the community work together? Well, again, you can actually join. So we have the pipe associated network that I mentioned before. So you don't just invest in the project, you can actually join the team of these university projects. So what the Pipe platform does is it evaluates all the gaps that are required. Do you need a CTO? Do you need a CEO? Do you need a marketing person, business development person, and so on? And the Pipe associates that are reviewing the project can actually join the team. So one of you could be, C-suite, could be CEO, could be CTO of the project, and actually potentially get paid by the project, from the capital which is being raised by the community, right? So on. So it's not just, hey, you put your money in, you can actually participate in the project and join the team. And that's how we plan to make it a virtuous circle. So unlike a lot of these DeSci projects where, hey, you're just funding a research paper, I think 60% of which are actually fraudulent. Our system checks all that, and hey, and they give you a shit coin for the research paper. We don't, you don't give any shit coins for the research paper. You don't get any coins for investing in any projects. It's USDC in, USDC out, and so yeah, you can join on the Web2 side and participate in the actual project and actually become a reviewer and actually earn. So we'll be tokenizing the shares in the projects as RWAs. So people that are on the Pipe Associated network will actually be able to earn tokenized shares of the project, sweat equity, while it's going through as well. So that's how we plan to do things. But you can become a Pipe Associate right now, but you have to do KYC, you have to do AML. There are restrictions on the countries that you can do it from. So I'm not going to name names. I don't want to piss anyone off or seem that we're being political, but I'm sure you can imagine some countries that are sanctioned under Western sanctions, or some countries that are currently war torn and so on. Those kind of, or some countries that have that are known to be, let's say, economic, or let's say less than scrupulous with their treatment of intellectual property from other countries, but I'm not going to name names, but you can imagine. So there are nationality restrictions on those that can join the Web2 side, but you can join the Pipe Associated Network right now, and actually join the wider ecosystem, not just on the gDAO side. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, man, thanks for that great answer. And also, What plans do you have in place to increase the visibility of your products or proposal among non-crypto investors? Because the success of a project attracts new investors who are unfamiliar with the crypto sector. And also, when are you gonna launch? How much liquidity will be provided at launch? Do you have any audit reports? And how safe is your smart contract from bugs?
Okay, so we plan to improve the UI UX of the PGF Launchpad to make it uh, more Web2 friendly. So, for example, we plan to let retail investors, the ImpactFi investors, impact finance investors that are not Web3 native, to be able to create wallets using using Gmail, for example, so they don't have to worry about their keys and that kind of stuff. Um, Also interoperable. So because we're partnered with Layer 1X is an interoperable blockchain. It's interoperable with most major major EVM chains, Tron, Solana, Bitcoin, and so on. So you won't have to bridge across to other networks and that kind of stuff. You can just be where you are, so that we can get the maximum number of users. Currently, the PGF Launchpad is on 6 chains, 6 major EVM networks. But yeah, we are planning to improve the UI UX to make it as Web2 native as possible. Um, and we do then plan to do marketing campaigns that target socially and ethically conscious ESG investors, or retail investors, so people that invest in impact ETFs, for example. Because there are impact ETFs out there, or people that invest in renewable energy ETFs, in TradFi. Target those kind of people and say, hey, you can actually get in at the seed level, because the stuff, impact ETFs and those kind of things, are things that are already listed on the stock market. So the people that have made most of the money made that money prior to it being listed on the stock market. So we have a plan to target those kind of investors, and putting a wrapper which is more native to Web2 investors. And a lot of it is about education. So we're also going to educate. We have a podcast already on Spotify. Go to the pipe, type in the Pipe gDAO podcast, and that's our educational center as well. So education about Web3 and about using these kind of things. We have an FAQ section as well on the PGF Launchpad, which non-Web3 people can use. But yeah, the podcast, which you can check out, helps to explain a lot of these concepts to non-Web3 native people. Now, the token, we're planning to launch it with up to 500,000 in liquidity. And that's going to be provided by our partner Layer 1X. So they have a liquidity loan protocol which we can use. We are going to have some free floating liquidity as well, and we are also going to have a market maker, a DEX market maker as well. So it's the same market maker that was used by Pepe on the DEX, to help to tighten, to make the bid offer spreads as tight as possible, so that liquidity on the DEX can be used as efficiently as possible. So we have a DEX market maker in place, again planning to do that in Q1 next year, up to 500,000 in liquidity for that, because again there will also be people from launchpads coming in as well. So yeah, that's how we're planning to tackle that. I hope that helps. Oh, and then in terms of the auditing, we are looking to get the audit badge for for our token contract. I think we're looking to get that this week. So I think we're going to be working with Assured DeFi to do that, and we're also going to be getting the KYC. But I'm doxed anyway. You can check out my LinkedIn profile. You can check out check me out on the website, which is linked to my LinkedIn profile. The team is doxed as well, and the Pipe company is a registered company in the UK. It's launched in 2021. All those details are public, and that's where you can see business on the business sticker as well. So this is, we can't run away and rug people. We are, the pipe company is a company, and we're all doxed as well. But yeah, we are going to be doing KYC and audit soon, within the sale. Yeah, I think hopefully it should be done by in a week's time. You should see those badges on the sale there. But in the meantime, as I said, we are a registered business and we are doxed.
Okay, man. So thanks for that great answer. And lastly, I just want to know about the language aspect of your project. Okay, let's say I have like investors that don't speak English and they want to invest in your projects. How are they gonna invest? Do you guys have something like an AI that's gonna translate or what?
So we are planning to do that, make it accessible as possible. Obviously, right now we're in English, but we are planning to do. Obviously, that requires capital, which is why we're trying to raise capital, through token sales and so on. But yeah, we do want to make it as accessible as possible, and have languages. So obviously, AI will be part of that. People will be able to pick their region or their country and the language and so on, and and make it accessible. So yeah, there are plans to do that. Yes.
Okay, yeah, because that would really be great. So Rainlands, thanks for the great opportunity. And also Pipe Gadewa, thanks for the answer.
No problem. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Jerry, for your questions. And we're going to keep it moving to Western Beast 001. Hopefully, you're having an awesome day so far as well. And the floor is all yours. Welcome.
Hey guys, thanks, Lawrence. I just have one quick one regarding the nature of the ecosystem. I'm a researcher, and something that impacted or that touched me with you guys is the fact that you're reaching out to exclusive researchers in the field of finance. I don't know if you know the movie Hummingbird. If you've watched the movie Hummingbird, one was the fact that they were able to develop a means of using fiber optics to be able to front run transactions on a microsecond level. For context, they were faster to place bids, at scale, which would get to millions of dollars. But then, why I brought the research aspect of this question was the fact that a company hired a PhD student because of his research related to a faster way of sending radio waves. And a statement that the founder of the company made, they were the bad guys, was the fact that they own the research because they are funding it. I want to know your take on companies that actually perform these kinds of things, because when people create movies, when story writers create movies, they actually do it because of what happens in the real world. I actually also read a novel where another PhD student was able to find a more efficient means of managing pressure, underwater pressure. And another big company that had the funds to pull this project hijacked the project and used it to get even higher depths in the ocean. The question around these two scenarios is the fact that, like you said, or like your project said, not very many researchers actually benefit from the full potential or the full impact of their project. Personally, what is your take on these kinds of behavior by those who can fund these projects, and is Pipe GAO doing anything about this to lower that barrier and make researchers benefit more from their projects? I don't know if you get the concept of the question.
I understand. I'm not familiar with the movie that you've mentioned, but I'll check it out. It might be very interesting. We could probably do some podcast content about that. So thanks. So that's precisely why we have a community-based funding mechanism, right? Because, as I say, the pipe company takes between 30 and 40% equity on behalf of the community, right? And so the problem is that when the research, companies can bring on a researcher, but they own the IP, right? I own a patent myself, so I know, right? But these projects are actually owned and founded by the researcher themselves, right? A commercial venture can also join the platform, but they have to be partnered with a research institute or university to come on there. So let's just say a researcher wants to commercialize their IP. They get funded by the community, as I said, and the pipe company takes 30 to 40% of the equity in the IP and the project on behalf of the community, but the founder retains control or majority control and gets their 2 million. And then they can then get listed on the pipe exchange. Obviously, once they get their 2 million in capital, there's what's called pre-money and post-money valuation, right? So there's a pre-money valuation, the post. So let's just say the project gets, I don't know, 2 million in seed funding from the gDAO community, and let's just say their valuation is, let's just say 5 million pre-money. Post-money is usually like at least 50% of the value of the or 50% of the value of the investment. So post-money, it could be 6 million, right? So because the valuation then increases post-money, and it's a crowdsourced investment, there will be a high valuation, which means that when a VC or a big commercial company wants to come in and acquire another chunk, the valuation will be higher, and they won't be able to acquire as much of the company as they would have had they just come to the scientist or whatever straight up at the seed level. And one of the big problems with the current funding mechanism is that these big companies can take far too much control of the researcher's company because they're coming in at the very, very the ground in level, which is seed level. That's where that's where the lowest valuation and highest risk is, and they can put in measures which can actually get the founder kicked out because because of the contract and that kind of stuff. So that's precisely why we have a community funded seed funding mechanism. And also for Series A's, let's just say that they want to get listed on the Pipe Exchange and they want to do another round with the community, which I mentioned, which is the sub-DAO or the sub-fund. You have to be a member of the main fund for you to set up a sub-fund. Then the community becomes the shareholder, and they're much more likely to not try to screw over the project or so on. So that's how we're trying to because of the hierarchies that exist in TradFi and Web 2, blockchain, as I said before, it horizontalizes, it flattens, it levels the playing field. And so that's exactly why we're looking at community-based funding mechanisms so that scientists and our researchers can keep a much larger share of their investment and much larger control. So I'll give you an example. We all know about NVIDIA, and they're now the biggest, highest valued company in the world. Most people don't know that the critical component, the critical technology for their microchips is actually a European company, UK-based company called ARM. And so because ARM wasn't able to IPO in the UK and get the funding they needed, they sold the technology to NVIDIA. And now NVIDIA got the benefit of that, right? So if they had a community-based funding mechanism at seed level, they might and been able to do STOs and those kind of things to fund their project, they might not have needed to be acquired by this US by NVIDIA. Most of the European researchers, they sell their stuff out to American investors because they have a strong stock market in the States, and the Chinese have a strong state-owned banks that do lending at seed level. So that's precisely why we're going down the community-based funding mechanism. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but I hope that answers your question.
So that's actually an intelligent approach, a really brilliant approach to, providing this needed support to the researchers, because most of these researchers, speaking from experience, they devote their time and resources to, trying to make this proof of concept, so to speak, and it costs money. Something back wouldn't be so bad. The Hummingbird is a great movie. I'd actually recommend it. Sorry, I'm shilling it here, Renland. I really appreciate that depth of detail to the question, to the way you answered the question. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys build even more. Thanks a lot for the insights. Over to you, Renland.
You're most welcome, and make sure you participate in the private sale.
There we go. A shill added to it. So Western Peace, much appreciated. Thank you for the questions here. And we're going to keep on moving to the last community question on this session. So CC, you're going to be on the second hot seat. You know how this goes. Better make your questions count. Better make them great ones. Hopefully having an awesome day so far. And the floor is all yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Raymond. It's been an honor to be it's an honor actually to be on the hot seat, the last hot seat actually. So it's been an interesting AMA so far. Something I actually noticed on the project. I don't know if you talked about it during the discussion, but there are two things I wanted to talk about, but I'm just gonna make it into one question. So one is the VTL validation. And then I was reading the white paper, and then I noticed about you talked about the pre-seed projects from universities and all. But now here's the question. Looking at pre-seed projects, it's a really good concept. They want to get funding. But some projects, after they've built the project to some extent, and then they've made some progress, they come back and request for more funding. All right. So for me, I kind of like call it the post seed project. All right. So the thing is, do you plan to do something like that? And if you're trying to do something like that, do they still need to perform any form of validation again, or perhaps revalidation again, or maybe a KYC process? Do they need any information to come back with fundings? Is there any after benefits of them after they've come to the Web3 and then they want to make progress into the Web2 into becoming I would say a Web2 sort of project? Perhaps they've gone global, like you give an example of NVIDIA, and perhaps they've become big in the Web2 side, but they want to come back to your project for more insights on their on their project and perhaps more funding. Do you have any platforms to perhaps refund and revalidate and more benefits to your company?
Sure, thanks. So as I mentioned before, you've probably seen in the white paper, we are building an STO platform. So once the project gets their seed funding and they're successfully funded and they want to come back and get more capital, the community can vote within that PGF. So each fund will have its own DAO on, which is specifically for that. So the PGF has, the NFT holders will become a DAO themselves, and then they will then vote to say, okay, hey, this company, this project, which we funded at seed level, wants to come back and do a Series A, let's say raise 5 million to 10 million, for example, in Series A. Do we approve of this? And if so, a sub fund gets created dedicated to the next stage of funding, but there will actually be tokenized shares, tokenized equity, which will also be in a pool, right? So the pipe company, we are going to actually do our own STO. We're actually going to tokenize our own shares and actually do a sale for our own shares, and the same technology that we use for our STO will then be used for the STO for these for dedicated STO for specific projects. So the community will get to decide which companies do an STO, and they can fund them directly rather than being in the main pot. But as I said, you have to be a contributor in the main pot for you to then be able to vote and create a sub fund dedicated to the next round. So we don't have plans for more validation at the post seed level. We could talk about, we could add that, but it's the reason why we don't have plans for that just yet is because the pre-seed level, that is where the highest risk is. So by us de-risking and doing the 90 hours of due diligence at the pre-seed level, that's how we are then making the project much less risky at the post-seed level. Do you see what I mean? So the pre-seed de-risks the post-seed. So it's not just TRLs, technology readiness levels. It's sales and marketing readiness levels, business ready to business instruction, so business ready to operate levels, sales and marketing readiness levels, and so on. So there's all different types of mechanisms, but it's the pre-seed side which is the most high risk, as I said, and that's where the validation has to come in. But after that is less risky. They'll approve first principles and so on, and so people can then do STOs from there. But for the community to then create a sub-DAO, that sub-DAO, what we call a DAI, Digital Autonomous Investor, they need to have put in 25K worth of value, either individually or collectively, either through investment or contribution as a PIPE associate, which is all in the white paper, for them to then set up a new dedicated fund for the next level, for the next stage. Hope that helps.
Yeah, exactly. It's I actually understand the point where you say the more work happens on the pre-seed. All right, it's a good one, but I was actually thinking, what if, for example, like WhatsApp, right? So Meta came, bought WhatsApp, and then WhatsApp, perhaps they went to enjoy themselves with the money, or they went to build another project with the money. I don't know, but something like that. And then WhatsApp have another idea, right? And they want to build another project, right? With the money they've made from selling WhatsApp, and then they come back to your project, because I understand the part of where you say the pre-seed, that's where the work is. But now, will you consider a project like that as a pre-seed or post-seed? A project like WhatsApp, they come back again for a new project. But guess what? You already vetted them before. You know they're legit. But perhaps they had an issue, or like I said, they sold their company and they want to come back again, right? Are you still going to consider them a pre-seed or post-seed? And that's where I was talking about, if there's going to be another validation for them, or since you already vetted them, there's no need. What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, so no, I mean, they'd have to set up a fresh company, right? For the fresh, because if they've sold WhatsApp, it means WhatsApp is owned by Meta, which it is. Although Meta have strangely ditched the metaverse project, metaverse side, which that's from what I see. So I don't know why they went through all that, but that's something else, right? So no, they would set up a whole new startup altogether, and build that. So it's similar to what, what's it called? Sui is actually the team that behind Meta's Diem and Libra, which the U.S. Congress foolishly shot down. They're actually Facebook, Meta developers from that project, and they came and they formed a whole new company for that. So you got Diem. So Facebook sold the technology for Libra and Diem. These guys raised some capital and they used that. So Sui is one and Aptos is another. Yeah, but it has to be a new entity, new startup altogether, and you come back in at the seed level. We're focused on that side, and you don't need to do too much. If you just have what's the one deep mine concept? I think it's in 48 Laws of Power, or 30 Strategies of War. You don't need to have several different gold mines. Just focus on one mine, and to make you wealthy, and then maybe you can expand to other stuff. So we want to just keep our focus at the seed level, pre-seed level, and then post-seed. But the validation and stuff will be there, because that's where the biggest opportunity is.
Oh, okay, cool. So that means what's gonna, for example, like I said, WhatsApp, right? So they came before. So what's gonna happen to their former data? Will the data be archived? Will it be sold to Facebook? Will you delete it like forever? Or what are you gonna do with the old information that was given to the project?
Well, I mean, it's owned by the shareholders, right? I mean, so they go through the process. They're then acquired. They get their funding. They can then do an STO or whatever. So it's up to the proprietors of the stuff. So if WhatsApp have sold all their data to Facebook, then it belongs to Facebook, right? It doesn't belong to us, right? But in terms of the data which has gone through the platform, once it goes through the platform, it's and gets sold or acquired or so on. It's not really our business what happens then. It's only our business while it's within the pipe framework or while it's within the system. So it depends on who owns it.
Oh, okay. So, sorry, Rayland, I'm trying to take a look because I just want to understand the concept of the data information now. Because if you think about it, I have a new project, I sold my old project, I come in back again as a pre-seed project, and then I have an old data in your platform, but the data I have in WhatsApp is Web2, right? I sold that to Facebook. But the data I have in your platform is Web3, right?
No,
And
sorry, that's not.
okay,
So we have a Web3 project on the Web3 is just for the community funding aspect. The
okay,
magic happens actually on the Web2 side. So the stuff that
okay.
people are, so we're not turning Web2 or hardware projects into Web3 projects. No, the only thing which is Web3 is the funding mechanism and the tokenization and so on, right? So that's the Web3 component. So we tokenize the RWA, the real world assets, and the RWAs on the blockchain, but we don't necessarily retain the previous data because it doesn't belong to us anymore, right? It's not in our framework, in our system anymore. Once it leaves the system, it's tokenized as an RWA, and that's on the blockchain, right?
Mhm.
But we don't have any say as to who then owns that data or whatever. That's up to the proprietors.
Oh, all right, cool, cool. Now I get it. Now I get it. It's actually a good thing that you try to organize the data information transfers and stuff like that, because tomorrow, a company can come and say, "Oh, you sold my information to another company. I'm gonna sue you for $20 million." Stuff like that. And dumb, So
Yeah,
that's why I had to know, how those information will be stored, the
yeah,
transfers, all like that. But yeah,
sure. I mean,
it's an interesting progress.
sure. And just so the RWAs will be tokenized as an NFT, right? And
Mhm.
then that NFT, it's what's known as leaning in. So people on the Pipe Exchange, where these projects will be listed to then get more capital and get funded and be acquired, they can have a look at what the IP does without giving away the inventive step, which is the freedom to operate. And people on the Pipe Exchange can then be able to add more to that IP. But because it's on the blockchain, in terms of the the traceability and the proprietariness, everyone can see who has accessed it and who's seen it and so on. So the blockchain actually reduces the risk of people running away and doing other things with it because it's tokenized. But the actual inventive step, that is not that remains private on a Web2 database and stuff. We don't put that publicly there until it's of course published by the patent company.
Oh, oh, cool. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the answers to my questions. And
You're welcome.
thank you, Ryland, for the opportunity once again.
Sure, and well, make sure you participate in our sale. Thanks.
There we go. And CCF, thank you very much for the questions. And without further ado, this is where we're going to be ending today's session. So just wanted to say thank you very much for not only the amazing presentation, but also for an amazing conversation, for answering all of my questions, as well as the community's questions. Wishing you the best of luck for the sale today. And once again, dropping a reminder here, you guys can find the link to it on the AMA announcement, 6:14 p.m. UTC sharp. So do make sure to catch it. And yeah, wishing you the best of luck, and hopefully you have an awesome rest of your day as well.
Thank you very much, and thank you for letting me come up on stage. And I really appreciate the questions from the community. It's very interesting to see what interests people. And yeah, make sure you participate and join this impact finance revolution so we can turn these pipe dreams into reality. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you very much. And of course, to our community, thank you very much for joining. We're going to catch you on the next one. Have an awesome rest of your day. Cheers.
Thank you. Goodbye.